Hi there, and Hail State. Welcome to our first virtual Road Dogs. That's right, we're reinventing the concept of the coaches' caravan to fit in with the times now, and we're glad that all of you are here to be part of our first installment, and we're going to have one each week for you over the course of the next month. So we'll get to spend a lot of time together. You'll get to learn about some of our coaches. We'll get to interact with you, which is very important during this time. And most importantly, we can share our love of Mississippi State sports together, even though we're all separate right now. And of course, we're all looking forward to that day when we won't be separate again. And we'll be able to gather, hopefully, in the next few weeks here at Davis Wade Stadium or any other fall sports event or fall sports venue or event coming up on the Mississippi State campus. We've got a great panel of guests for our first show. Coach Mike Leach is with us, the new head coach of the Mississippi State football team. Samantha Ricketts, who just wrapped up her first year as the head coach of Mississippi State softball team. And another first-year head coach, Chris Woods, who just finished up his first year at the helm of Mississippi State's track and field team. I want to thank all of you for taking some time to do this and say welcome to all of you. I use that word first a lot. And as I sat down and thought about this particular group, that was kind of the overarching theme for me, first and new. And I think there's something very exciting about that. So let me start with Coach Leach. This is not your first time as a head coach, but you are new to this specific situation. What has all of this been like for you so far?
Well, I've been pretty, first of all, I'd like to say hi to Coach Woods, Coach Ricketts, two outstanding coaches. And one thing about missing these deals is, that's where you can really get, spend some time getting to know the other coaches when you're on the road doing these events. So I miss it from that standpoint. But, I've put off for as many years as I possibly can learning anything about computers, and then I hit this COVID stuff, and it lassos you right into the middle of the world of computers, which I'm not going to lie, I hate that aspect of it. I can't wait to get back out there in practice so that I can go back to making computers other people's problem. But no, I've been on the computer a lot. Last couple of months, let's get on the computer. Matter of fact, we're all going to convene again on the computer tomorrow afternoon, and none of us can wait. But the thing is it has elevated the technology and amuse yourself while you're at the house, and find stuff to do, and then also try to find ways to connect with your players, reach out to them, make sure their well-being's good, and make sure they're doing something productive.
Samantha, how have you done that with your players? Because you were one of the coaches that was literally in the middle of your season when everything just kind of stopped abruptly. How have you maintained those lines of communication with your players?
Yeah, it has been a big transition for us as well. And, we've been having weekly Zoom meetings so that we could check in and fill them in on any updates that we may have, but then also making sure that between myself and my staff, we are rotating individually and checking in on the team. We have 25 players and 4 staff members, so it's easy to just kind of split them up and everybody take a couple a week and just check in. Especially right now, a big thing is making sure where they're with their mental health and are they in a good spot, and they go from a very structured environment to none of that and all being sent home and their season being taken away from them. So it's been an adjustment for all of us, and just making sure that we're providing them with the tools they need to continue to work and also be successful and take care of themselves in the meantime.
And by the way, you have embraced the technology maybe more than any of us, because you found a way to put News Park in your background. So it kind of feels like you're right at home at the softball field. That's a nice touch.
Yes.
Very nice.
Only way I can really see the field right now. So I'll take it.
Good for you for figuring it out. Chris, again, first year head coach, you're in the middle of your spring and you get a call that says, hey, it's got to stop. What was that process like? And your situation may be a little bit more different than everyone else because you've got international athletes that are parts of your teams, and people who truly are scattered, not just across the country, but across the world right now.
Yeah, getting the news that we had to shut everything down was certainly difficult and something like I've never experienced before. Actually, when everything shut down, the indoor track and field NCAA championship was 2 days away from starting. So all of those individuals that qualify for indoor championship meet on the NCAA level, they were pretty much ripped out of the indoor championship and told that they had to go home. So our communication with our team, I think, has been really well. Our different event coaches, they reach out to the kids on a weekly basis, and it's certainly difficult. I coach a young woman. She's in Australia, and we're the only time we're able to talk is either midnight here or midnight there because of the vast difference in time. But the kids and athletes seem like they are in really good spirits, and all of them cannot wait to get back here to start doing what it is that they came here to do.
I think all of us are in agreement too that we can't wait to have all of them back as well. Samantha, you brought up a really good point, I think, earlier about a lot of people think of student athletes and we see what they do physically when they're on the field or they're on the court or on the track. But the mental piece of this is something I think that gets lost when you're talking about folks who have been isolated for as long as all of us have. And how important has it been for you to make sure that you're keeping tabs on that part, you're staying engaged with your athletes, and you're letting them know that even though they're not here, they're still very much a part of your team?
Yeah, definitely. The mental well-being of our student athletes has been priority number one since we had to stop softball, and that's kind of taken the back seat. You know, they know what they're responsible for, and we're still sending them their workouts and everything that we can, but really it's been providing them with outlets and support. Our counseling and sports psychology department on campus has played a huge part in our team meetings and just helping them to express feelings that maybe they don't really know how to put into words, and then just different avenues about, hey, like, let's continue to make a schedule and have a routine. That's what you're used to. And get outside, whether it's a daily walk. So that part has been a little bit of a transition, but it's been a big focus for us these last few months.
Mike, what's a team meeting with a football team look like in the world of Zoom and the internet?
Well, there's start with mine. There's a bunch of blurry faces. The first thing you notice on these Zoom meetings, and you got to understand ours will be around 100. And so 100 people on there, the first thing, they're all missing each other. They're all tired of not being around one another. So you'll overhear them talking and joking around with one another on the computer, you know, just like catching up. What's going on? Are you still horrible at playing Madden? What about this game? Well, I can take you on that game. So, I mean, it just goes. And so then, you know, they'll kind of, kind of make fun of each other and go back and forth for a while. And sometimes we don't even start the meeting just because it's fun to listen to, you know. And then some of them obviously understand the mute button about as well as I do. And then we start the meeting, and and I'll be honest with you, the meetings I find them quite awkward because, you know, to me, if a meeting is working, people are engaged, people are locked in, and people are, there's at least a body language exchange. So you kind of lack that, but there has definitely been an enthusiasm around our meetings. And just like Samantha mentioned, you know, there's been a lot of, we've tried to get as many people involved with our team as we can so that if nothing else, they hear the same thing, you know, positive things from different voices. And so they feel engaged as much as they can. And then, so we've had a number of meetings, everything from like position group meetings, which those take place once or twice a week. The whole team meeting, which is everybody, which is just a mass. The thing that's kind of hilarious is they're talking between themselves. I don't know if they know that the thing pops up on the screen, you know, and so you'll be sitting there talking, trying to finish, you know, kind of a serious thought, and you'll read what some of these players are saying, which is really pretty hilarious, you know. so you'll take a deep breath, try to read the rest of what they're saying, that type of thing there too. But I think that we're in about as good a space as you can be, because everybody's really excited to get out there. When we were allowed to start working out some, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I've never seen a group more excited to get out there and work out.
Yeah, Chris, you're in a similar boat, I think, to football too, because you're dealing with large numbers. And again, you've got student athletes that are spread out literally everywhere across the world right now. What's a team meeting look like for you, or what can you do right now other than one-on-ones here and there when you're trying to coach, or do you divvy that up among your staff? How are you handling all that?
Yeah, so we've had one large team meeting. A team meeting for us is about like football. We're going to be 100 plus student athletes and staff at one time, and our big thing is just making sure we relay the correct messages to them, which is we've all been handed a really difficult situation, but the things that we got to focus on right now are controlling the things that we actually have in our control. And what we have in our control is what we do during the off season and how we prepare ourselves for the next time that we get an opportunity to practice and compete in our events. Because if this pandemic hasn't taught you anything, it should have taught you that at any moment the opportunity can be stripped away from you. So we have to make sure that we take advantage of every opportunity that's given to us, coaches and athletes as well. And that's been one of the big messages that we've been trying to drive home when we have any kind of discussion with our kids, whether that's in a big group or one-on-ones.
Let me kind of take that in a similar direction, because I think the taking for granted is something that personally I've thought a lot about. I've not been preparing for a game. Normally wouldn't be this time of year. I get that, but at the same time, for a long time, there's been a degree of uncertainty about when that next one will be. And have any of you found, and I'll go back to Chris first here, have any of you found that you talked with your athletes that there has been this understanding of it is fleeting, and there's maybe this renewed sense of making the most of the opportunity because it can disappear at any time?
Yeah, that's, again, that's something that we've been driving home is you have to take advantage of every opportunity you're given, not just the opportunity to compete at a track meet, but every single rep of every single practice. You now have to understand how precious that is, because the next rep or the next practice is not always promised. And I think our kids are now starting to understand and get a renewed love for the sport of track and field, and specifically their events that they participate in. For a lot of our kids, we're a little bit different than a lot of sports in the sense of a lot of our kids, they don't need a ball or a goal or any other kind of outside equipment, except for those kids who, pole vault and throwing events and some of the jumping events. The majority of our kids, they can lace up and go on a 3-mile run here, or go out in the yard or the driveway or somewhere if they want to do some type of running. So I think this time away from competition has really renewed their love for the sport of track and field.
Samantha, have you had similar conversations with your softball student athletes?
Yeah, definitely. I think they all, I think as coaches, we have that conversation a lot. This can be taken from you at any moment. And for our team to experience that, they're now really starting to realize the truth to that. And that just with the process of coming back, they're saying, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll play in a mask. Just let me back on that field with my teammates. And they're really excited about the opportunity, especially our senior class, who were granted an extra year of eligibility by the NCAA. And for them, it's really been, I think, a roller coaster of emotions to have season taken from them and then have a year given back. They want to make sure they make the most of that opportunity. And our message has been the same as Chris, and just getting them to understand, hey, in life, you don't always get a redo. You don't get a second chance. You don't get that year handed back to you. So why not make the most out of it when you do get this opportunity? So that's really been our focus on them. And I think that senior class is determined to not let it go to waste and to make sure that they go after it with as much as enjoyment as they possibly can.
Mike, you guys dealing with similar conversations on the football front too?
I'll tell you the thing that I think has probably been the most challenging. We've done what we could, but to try to advise on nutrition, to try to make sure that they're eating right. And I did feel like we came in pretty good shape as far as I've seen. And then I've had I've had over 40 individual conversations where we do the thing and there's masks and everybody walks in all separated up, where there's just like, one student athlete. We try to pinpoint how his life's going and that type of thing. But I think that, the problem onefold is of course the sport, and then the other is just their mental well-being, and then the academics. And then, but academics went pretty well this semester, so.
Well, and again, that's been something that everyone has had to adapt to. Every student athlete on every team represented here, and for that fact, across the athletic department, summer courses have been taught exclusively online. So that's not a total departure because online classes have been a thing, but to not have that human interaction or not have that routine, I think it has definitely changed the way that people have had to adapt to learning, and we're seeing all of our student athletes do that right now. And I'll follow up on one other thing from Coach Leach there. Going home, everyone has been home for the most part through this shelter in place or pandemic. When I go home, my diet goes out the window because no one cooks better than your mother. No one. And you don't tell your mother that you're not going to eat this thing she's put on the table. So that is another thing that you don't think of, but it's there. Another temptation that you have to pass up is mom's home cooking. And that can be definitely be a tough one for sure. Okay. One other thing, and then we're going to transition into much happier things because I'm sure all of you who are with us have heard about COVID and everything else till you're probably about as blue in the face as we are sometimes. But we live in a time where there are a lot of things going on in this country. And I ask this question as coaches and teachers. With all the things, not any one in particular that are going on right now, how do you address it with your athletes and how do you help them navigate a challenging time, I think, for this country as a whole right now? Mike, what has there been any discussion at all with your guys about what's going on in addition to the pandemic right now?
Well, the biggest thing is just to try to be there and try to create forums and opportunities for everybody to be listened to. I think that's the most important thing is to listen. And then, so we've had a couple team meetings on that. We had one team meeting where, we encouraged those that wanted to go to the rally to go, because I don't want anybody to feel like they're restricted in any way from expressing themselves or attending the rally. So we definitely wanted to encourage, people to do it without forcing anybody. And then, the biggest thing is create opportunities to listen. I think our campus has an awful lot of resources. As this stuff's emerged, our campus has provided a lot of resources for dialogue on that type of thing. And I've really been impressed with, with what they've done. I've also been impressed with our student athletes as far as some of the points that they've made that I thought were pretty profound. Others, and the other thing is, just kind of working together through this.
Chris, what conversations have you had, or how have you helped your student athletes navigate through the world that we live in today?
Man, I could talk about this for a very long time, but obviously we don't have that time this afternoon. I think what's important right now is recognition of what's going on in the world and around you, that it's no longer okay to just kind of sit on the sidelines and not even be willing to recognize what's going on. And once you have the ability to recognize what's going on, or finally recognize what's going on, start to educate yourselves on what actionable things you can do to change what's the injustices that are happening throughout the country and throughout the world. I mean, at the end of the day, it's about equality and treating people as the same way that you would want to be treated, treating your teammates the same way that you want to be treated, and treating every human being that you come into contact with equally. And so that's really been our message, is it's time for everybody to recognize what's going on and what's happening, and to be active against any type of oppression.
Samantha, what about from the softball perspective? How have you guys navigated this?
A lot of the similar things. We want to make sure that we're providing them with opportunities to have this dialogue, especially within the team. And, in softball, we're such a kind of a diverse group all over the place from different backgrounds and socioeconomic standpoints. But really making sure they understand that the team environment is a safe space for them to ask questions and to voice their opinions. And we've had some tough conversations about it, but I think it's been very beneficial for all sides to either hear or to listen. And at the same time, we're working with them to try to provide different resources, whether it's to help them educate themselves or others to educate ourselves with and read and share. And then just, making sure that we're doing everything we can, whether it's an open dialogue or one-on-one, if someone's not comfortable speaking in the group setting. I think we're looking for all areas that we can help all the players, because everybody is going to process differently, and we want them all to know where we stand, where our team stands, and what we're going to stand for together and hopefully continue to do. And really, I think big picture, that it's not a one-time conversation. It's not something we're just talking about now, that we're going to continue to work on and make sure that, those athletes on our team and incoming, they feel supported and they feel like not just their team, but that Mississippi State as well has their back.
Thank you. All well said. Thank you for your thoughts on that.
Farm Bureau Insurance stands ready to provide financial relief to our communities in this time of crisis. This includes a one-time credit to all personal auto policyholders, a donation of $500,000 to the Mississippi Food Network, and additional payment options for those hit the hardest, all while continuing to service customer claims as well. But this is the time to go above and beyond. These are a few ways we're keeping the Farm Bureau promise. To learn more, talk to your agent or visit us online. Go with the home team.
All right, so let's transition now into the theme that we had at the beginning here. We've got two head coaches, Samantha and Chris, that were in the midst of their first season as head coaches here. Mike's about to start his first year as the head football coach here. Chris, I'm curious, you competed as an athlete here. Was there a moment during your career when you had the thought, I'd like to be a head coach, I'd like to run the program? Can you recall a moment like that?
I don't ever think I had that thought process per se. I knew from a very early age what I wanted to do. I have a newspaper. My mom kept these newspapers articles when I was in like middle school and high school when I was competing in track and field. And, the ultimate goal for all track and field athletes is make it to the Olympics. And so this newspaper guy asked me at the age of, I think I was 15 or 16 at the time. He was like, hey man, do you want to go to the 2004 Olympics? At the time I would have been 18. And I said, man, I really don't care to go pro. I want to coach. So I've known for a very long time that I wanted to coach. I feel like leading young people is something that I've been put on this earth to do. And I'm just extremely blessed to be in the position to where I can lead student athletes in the same program that I was once led, you know, and so I knew early in my career professionally that I wanted to someday be a head coach. That day came a little bit sooner than I anticipated, but I intend to leave this program, not anytime soon, but when it does come time for me to leave, and I hope it's when I retire, I want to leave it better than what I found it. And I got it in a really good position. So I'm really excited to see what it is that we can do to continue to make the program even better than what it has been in the past.
Samantha, when did you know you wanted to be a head coach?
Oh man, I'm not sure if there's an exact moment about being a head coach. I know as a player at Oklahoma, it was my sophomore year where my head coach there approached me and asked if I'd ever thought about getting into coaching. And from that moment on, she just really had a big impact on me, not just as a player, but as a future coach, and would go out of her way to ask me how I would handle certain situations and what my thoughts or ideas might be, and really just was helping to groom me for that career path later on. And it was something that was just natural. And she's a Hall of Fame coach and has been a huge impact in my career. And I think throughout the process of being an assistant and a hitting coach and moving up through the ranks, it's always been in the back of my mind. It was just about when is the right time and the right opportunity. And similar to Chris, I think it happened sooner and different than I expected it to happen, but that's kind of how it works out. It's meant to be when it's supposed to happen. And I couldn't ask for a better situation to be in my first year with a team I know, players, coaches, administration, and staff. And it's just really been a very smooth and exciting transition, and I'm excited to continue forward with it.
Mike, can you recall a time when you were drawn to being a head coach, when you knew maybe that's the path you wanted to take?
I wanted to when I was a kid. I used to watch plays. My favorite team was the Green Bay Packers. I used to watch plays. I used to draw them up. I used to put them in the file. I had a picture of Bart Starr over my bed, and of course I'd read stuff by Vince Lombardi. And then I started coaching baseball when I was 15, had my own team. I'm 15, which was unusual because most people were, kind of the adult types. And so then think that I might want to do it, for sure, either baseball or football. Then I went to law school, and then I came back to my senses. And so I've been coaching ever since.
I wanted to ask you this question because a guy that was kind of one of my mentors in a roundabout way in broadcasting had a law degree, earned his law degree, went to take the bar, and as the story went, he popped the seal off the bar with his pencil. He looked at it. He tried to answer one question, looked at the guys beside of him, and he said, "Ain't no way," and got up and walked out of the room. But he said that having that experience in going through and getting the law degree helped him to prepare for a broadcast, because he took the same preparation he would have used had he been going into the courtroom to try a case. Do you find that having gone through that process with the law, that it has added something to your preparation and the way you get ready for a game? Is there anything to that at all?
I think it's definitely helped. I think that any amount of knowledge helps. Any knowledge anybody gets, I think, is helpful, because I think people draw more from the whole picture than they realize. I think, I learned this or that in a coaching class. I don't think that's it. I think that, you learn a lot from people and people you associate with. I felt like, law school kind of is organizes your thinking to a point. It's not just about, okay, this is against the rules, this isn't, but it organizes your thinking. In other words, how to address an issue. In law school, a lot like coaching, there's more to do than you can get done. So you have to figure out what's most important, what'll help you be successful the most. And so I think it's a good exercise in prioritizing. And then I think that, if you have a locker room with a lot of people in it, and, with regard to motivating players or bringing together a team as a whole, I think, it's really good as far as that goes, as far as trying to see as many sides of things as you possibly can. And weeks in football aren't unlike that. You start out early in the week really loaded up, and then you have to prioritize, and you practice and present and coach your team with what you feel like is best. And then you have a game at the end of the week, and you see how you did. And no matter how well you did, you'll learn something from it to do better next time, and you keep building on it.
Chris, I think people have a really basic, or at least maybe a more defined understanding of team sports. And track and field is a team sport as we do it here. You qualify as a team for SEC championships, for national championships, indoor and outdoor. Cross country is a team sport, yet it is also an individual sport. And from a coaching perspective, how do you maintain that balance of I'm trying to remember the line from The Untouchables that Al Capone used to say about baseball. It's a team game with focus on individual achievement. That's kind of how it sounds. How do you manage that balance to keep those two things working in harmony?
Well, again, I think one of the things that we focus on as a staff is controlling the things within our realm of control. So each coach does a good job of preparing his or her groups that they work with individually. And then the student athletes in those groups, they understand what role that play. They understand that why it is important that they get the set amount of points that we need from that group. So it really is a unique sport because we're 20 sports. When you look at all the different track and field events, we're really 20 sports balled into one. And it's just a matter of the way that we get our kids motivated to perform, especially at championship meets, is those individuals that are at the championship meets, that have qualified for the championship meets, they understand that they have an opportunity based on their individual performance to help the team get to finish in a better position. So nobody wants to be the one to not do his or her job and let the team down. So when it all boils down to it, a lot of our student athletes, they want individual glory, like everybody wants to cross the finish line first. But ultimately, they all do it for one another. They all want to score the most amount of points that they can as an individual to help their teammates out. Nobody wants to let their teammates down. And that's something that I really love about the program that we have here and our kids here.
Samantha, is that similar when you're talking about 9 players in a lineup and a pitcher that's got to go out there and try to control the game like happens in softball?
Yeah, I think we have, aspects of the team versus the individual as well. When we're on defense behind the pitcher, it's basically 9 against 1. And it's the 9 on defense working together to try and, get out of the 3 outs as soon as they can. But when we're on offense, you are one individual player up against the whole other team, and there's nothing anybody else on the team can really do to support you there. So it does have aspects of the individual versus the team aspect. Pitching as well, they might be out there with the rest of the team, but they're the only one that touches the ball every single play. So it does play a big part in it, and we make sure we understand that all roles are important, whether you're on the field or not playing and in the dugout. It's such a fast-paced energy game that momentum shifts and energy is really important to us, and just how well, especially for females are going to have to play good to really feel good to play good. And we tell them that a lot, where a lot of times males are the opposite. If they play good, they're going to feel good after the fact. So we need to make sure that, we're going in a good place mentally as well as physically, and everybody on the same page and embracing their role to contribute to a team success, whether that means touching the ball every play or, being the bullpen catcher and not seeing the field for a few games. And that's a big part of it, and it's a big part of our culture and something that we have to make sure we continue to emphasize with our team.
Samantha, let me stick with you for a minute here. Give me maybe one big thing you learned, even though that was an abbreviated first season. What's one big thing you learned about being a head coach that maybe you couldn't have imagined as an assistant?
I think just the overall aspect of the overseeing everyone, and, the staff, the players, the office, just the kind of all-encompassing work as the head coach and your oversight. I think, I had parts of it and I had different responsibilities as an assistant, but just kind of truly, I don't think you can truly understand the complexities of a program until you are the one that it all comes back to. And once the sites and the questions and just answering every situation and handling every, whether it be conflict or question that comes up, I think it's just the enormity of it is tough to understand until you're in those shoes and in that situation.
You're telling me you just don't hand them the ball and tell them to go play?
No, not quite.
Chris, was there, I don't want to say an aha moment necessarily, but was there a moment inside of that first year when you were the head coach that you had to think about something that maybe you didn't have to as an assistant?
Oh, there wasn't a moment. There were moments where you just don't think about it when you're an assistant. Like I did a lot of the recruiting before I was the head coach here at Mississippi State. I did a lot of recruiting, and I would be so focused on that and so focused on the official visit that I sometimes would even forget what my then head coach had going on. And now that I'm a head coach, you get a recruiting weekend, you still want to be as involved as what you once were when you was an assistant, but then you also have these other obligations that you have to attend to. Fortunately for me, I've been in a really good position to where I have a phenomenal associate head coach, April Thomas, who's had over a decade of experience here as a coach, and one of our assistant coaches, Steve Thomas, who's a veteran coach. He's been in so many different places, been a veteran coach, and he's also spent some time at Mississippi State. So they've certainly they've been integral in me making that transition over from assistant to interim head coach to head coach.
Mike, in this group, you have the benefit of head coaching experience prior to your arrival here. So let me ask the question to you in this way. Can you recall something from your first year as a head coach that you still use or has stuck with you to this point in your career?
Yeah, there's quite a few things really, but I think that I think that when you give the team the initial message, or like when you install something, if they're gonna get it from you, make sure they get it from you, because you don't want that message to get diluted or other people, well-intentioned people telling them something different. In other words, you don't want the running back thinking one thing, the receiver thinking one thing, and then the right guard thinking one thing, because you want to synchronize this thing as tight as you possibly can. I think that, and coaches are fairly aggressive people. I think there's a certain amount of problems that need to be waited out, and always wait until you get all the facts, because I think there's a temptation to initially get upset, something happens, react, but make sure you get all the facts. I think that's important. And then, the other thing is don't be afraid to ask somebody to do something uncomfortable. Because there's no really great victories unless it's hard. If it's easy to defeat somebody, or easy to accomplish something, or easy to make a block or a catch or a tackle, whatever skill you want, well, one, everybody would do it. And then two, how satisfying would it really be? And I think that the more you can, whatever your message is, get it to the team and get the team resonating your message, saying your message, then the stronger it is, because then, I think it distributes far quicker, and I think it, it brings the group together in a much stronger fashion.
For every moment, for every memory, from that first car to your first home to your first child, and all the highs and lows that tomorrow might bring.
For everything that matters most to you and your family, there's someone right around the corner dedicated to helping you protect what you love. Your local Farm Bureau insurance agent. Farm Bureau Insurance. Go with the home team.
So as we get ready to close here, I want to thank all of you who have been watching and have stuck with us for this hour, for letting us be part of your day. And we hope this has been enjoyable for you, and it's given you a chance to get to know our coaches on a little more personal level. And as we do close, I'd just like to ask the three of you, what message would you like to give to our fans who have, I'm sure like all of us, been yearning to get back to sports and back to what we were all so accustomed to prior to early March. So, Chris, I'd start with you. What would you like to say to all the fans who've been watching today and all the supporters of Mississippi State athletics?
And I was really hoping you would start with Mike.
I was very pleased he started with you.
What message do I have to the fans? We miss you guys dearly. We cannot wait to have our normal interactions with you again. We ask that you guys continue to support us, and that, believe it or not, that when at least, and I don't want to speak on behalf of all the sports here, but our student athletes in the track and field program, they do not take lightly that whenever they leave to go out of town, that they not only represent themselves, they not only represent this program, but they take pride in representing Mississippi State, the city of Starkville, and the Mississippi State fans. So thank you guys for all of your support. We miss you guys, and we can't wait to get back out there and start getting back after it. And that's just on behalf of the track and field program. We really, truly miss our fans, and we can't wait to get back out there.
You were hoping that I'd go a different direction, and I think you set the bar pretty high with that response. Personally, I think that was a pretty good way to lead us off. Sam, I give you – what's that?
I said Sam's an overachiever. She's going to knock this one out the park.
Yeah, okay. So it's teed up for you, Samantha. What would you say to the fans here?
I mean, can I just co-sign on what Chris said? Because that was great. But, no, I agree. I think we're all really anxious to get back together with our teams and with each other as a staff and a athletic department. And we can't wait. And we're anxious, just like everybody else is. We're all really looking forward to sports happening again, and fall sports and football being back. And we're excited. We know they are. And I think just maybe asking people to be patient and understand that things might look different, and that's okay, because we're willing to roll with the punches and do what needs to be done in order to help our athletes get back on the field. And, like Chris said, our athletes are really appreciative. We know a lot of our fans, we take the time to make sure that we go into the stands and that we're able to greet them and say hello and take pictures, because we don't take for granted those that are coming out to our games. And we understand that while our market and our fan base might be a little smaller, that they're just as important and they're supportive. And them recognizing our student athletes out in the community really means a lot. And our girls want to make sure that both on and off the field, they're representing not just themselves in our program, but Mississippi State. And that's something we continue to preach and to work forward. And I think they do a great job of it. And then we just hope that we continue to see support of them, and whether it looks differently or not, that everyone's out there and just really cheering them on and supporting them the best ways that we can.
Mike, you get the last word. Anything you'd like to say to our fans?
I think they pretty well touched on it. I think Chris kicked around the curb, and I think Samantha, knocked the fence down with it. But I would say that, the biggest thing, a team, players, they draw a lot of energy from the opportunity to share it with the fans. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think it goes back and forth, the opportunity to to share what we do with the fans is an honor, and it creates a lot of energy and enthusiasm on both sides. And so I think it's all a very important part of sports, whether somebody attends the event or, takes an interest from somewhere else.
Yeah, well said, I think, by everybody there. And we're looking forward to the day that we get sports going again here in the fall. We're excited about it. We're excited about seeing all of you, plain and simple, and looking forward to it. Now, if you still need more information, or if you still need to get your fix with regard to Mississippi State sports, we'll have another one of these coming up next week with a new panel of coaches, chance for you to get to meet and maybe get to know our coaches on a more personal level. And we will all – hailstate.com hasn't closed. They are wide open over there, and they've got all the latest information on anything you would want to know going on with any of the sports in the program. So just let your fingers do the walking on the keyboard there, hailstate.com. You can find anything you want. Of course, any of the social media platforms on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you'll find all the information there right on your favorite mobile device. Coaches, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure catching up with all of you. Best of luck as you continue on toward the fall. Thank all of you for being with us today, and we'll see you again with another episode of our virtual Road Dogs tour next week.